Hello, everybody, and welcome to another weekend edition of the Daily Tech News Show. This might become a habit. We'll see. I'm Tom Merritt, and this week, I wanted to spend a little extra time talking to Andrew Mayne, who is the founder of AI deployment firm Interdimensional, but also a former OpenAI employee. He is doing some contracting work with OpenAI, so you should know that before we hear him talk about it. But I wanted to get from him an explanation of why OpenAI would want to hire Instacart's CEO, Fidji Simo, to become the CEO of applications. And why would Fidji Simo want to leave Instacart? Why would Simo, while she's getting a CEO title, why would she not want to be the CEO the way she is at Instacart? She is a board member at OpenAI. So I called up Andrew to talk to him, and gratefully, he is joining us to talk about OpenAI's coming CEO of product. Andrew Mayne, thanks for joining me, man.
Hey, Tom. Good to see you.
Yeah. Listen, I was befuddled at first when I only read a headline. That's always the case if you only read the headline, that the CEO of Instacart was coming over to become the CEO of applications at OpenAI. But then I immediately texted Andrew, and Andrew, you pointed out that Fidji Simo, before Instacart, was working at Facebook. What do you think OpenAI is up to by hiring Fidji Simo in as the applications person, the CEO of applications?
So, we just had, news has been breaking about an acquisition of Windsurf, right? So Windsurf is this code editor, similar to Cursor, similar to Microsoft's VS Code with Copilot, and you've seen this sort of expansion now that's become apparent that, like, if you kind of follow the clues, is that, like, they're getting more into product. And initially, when my first role there, back when I worked there, by the way, was kind of like doing fast prototypes of stuff, just seeing it was possible. And this was 5 years ago of like, hey, where could it be? So there was always this sort of thought of like where things would go into the future. And then with ChatGPT, when ChatGPT launched, it really was a research preview and it wasn't a product. And one of the members of the, the computing team went in, who knew iOS, built the first prototype app. And that was just 2 years ago. And so now you've had this expansion of product, which has happened very, very quickly. You have ChatGPT, the Windsurf thing, if that shakes out, that's another thing. And then it means that there's a lot of surface area for customer experience, a lot of surface area for trying to keep things going and flowing and keeping product shipping. And meanwhile, OpenAI is trying to do research, still trying to keep ahead with frontier models, as well as yesterday, Sam Altman tweeted out photos of them in Abilene, Texas, where they're building Stargate and building this $500 billion or more complex of data centers, global data centers for training, et cetera, which means that, it's a very, very rapidly expanding company. When I started, it was in the Pioneer office, which was this small building, historic building where several startups have been located, been a Stripe office before. And then they expanded into a new facility, which was a 4-story building, which is great. Like, this will be good for years. Turned out that wasn't the case. I was just at one of the new offices in Mission Bay, which is, one of a couple, which was like a 7-floor thing that was a full business. And it's crazy. So what I'd say is that you need talent to come in, and you need talent internally and externally that understands kind of like customer facing stuff, how to do this. There's just a lot of expansion. She brings a lot of great experience because she spent a decade at Facebook working on a bunch of different products and helping them ship, and a very pivotal time for that company and rapid expansion. So I think that's really what you're seeing here is getting, experienced people who've worked at other companies and have a successful track record of building out.
Yeah, vice president of video games and monetization at Facebook when video games and monetization at Facebook was in its prime, right? That's a good track record. Instacart has I think surprised a lot of people with how well it's done. That's a good track record. She was one of the new board members that came into OpenAI, so she's familiar. It's not like they're bringing in someone totally unfamiliar. What struck me though was in the announcement, Altman saying that OpenAI is a product company and an infrastructure company. That was very reminiscent of the Amazon AWS kind of split. And it seems like he is over compute still, while CFO and product and all of that is going to be under Simo. Is that a future, do you think, for OpenAI, where they become a infrastructure provider for others, not just for themselves?
Well, I think, I don't know. Let me make it very clear. I have no internal knowledge of anything going on here. And so everything I say is pure speculation. So infrastructure could be looked at in a number of ways, like literally is building out the, as we saw, yesterday, he's, holding the shovel and got the hard hat,
right? Literally
helping build out the infrastructure they're going to need to basically help OpenAI provide remember, they have a couple products right now. They have ChatGPT and then they have the API. And the API is where you're getting a lot of high growth, which people are using that to power their other businesses. We just saw that Netflix is now using that to power recommendations. And you're seeing this all these other places. So you could look at it from the point of view of, providing inference, providing, the API access is a form of that.
That is also an infrastructure. That's a really good point. And then you have the nonprofit, as we covered earlier in the week, OpenAI will become a public benefit company. So get rid of the profit cap, but the nonprofit is going to stay in control. And so Altman was saying a lot of things about continuing that mission as well. So you kind of got three businesses there, I guess. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's certain kinds of concerns. And then within the company itself, like, research is still like the mitochondria that drives OpenAI. Research is really, they have a great relationship with, I was able to sit down and talk with the current head of research, Mark Chin, and Nick Turley recently, and kind of, you see it's a really genuine conversation and relationship between them, where at other companies it's very far apart. Is that you have product people in one end and research somewhere else, and every now and then research does a presentation and product is like, oh yeah, we want to do something with that. And I think that the organization certainly has these different kind of components to it, and having to manage all of that is certainly, fast moving. This is going to present a new way of doing things. Everything was a little tighter, as you were just describing, and this won't be quite as tight when you have a separate organization with a separate CEO. Yeah, I think the challenge is, you have to finding people who have been at companies have scaled very quickly, and successfully is very critical. And I think Sam has had a very good sense of what kind of talents and stuff are extremely useful. And I think that's what we can see here. Yeah. And Instacart is a good example of that, and in the track record for Simo. Also still co-founder of Metrodora, which is a really interesting healthcare effort. Yeah, that was another thing I was going to bring up is that having worked in sort of the sciences space or helping managing researchers and work with something like that is absolutely a super critical skill for somebody who wants to go into step into OpenAI, because like I said, it is very much a research org, and that, she has both an experience with a high growth company like Facebook and also working with, that front end research. And it's crazy because like one of my clients I was helping out, we were speaking with somebody at OpenAI earlier in the week about some health data stuff, and they had some questions about that. And then the person I was speaking to, like, oh, we should talk to the health team. And I'm like, we have a health team now? And that was like, yeah, we do. And that was incredible. But it was like, just coming from when I was there was like a little over 200 people to there's like, now being outside and watching, like there's an entire division of people focusing on AI and health data, et cetera. So you just get a sense of how many different areas at which they're being involved with, and how critical it is to bring in people with great skills for those. Yeah, it does seem like, the knee-jerk reaction might be to look at this and say, oh, Altman is doing the Larry and Sergey thing, and Simo is set up to be the Satya Nadella. It's probably not that simple, although there are parallels. Well, there was an Eric Schmidt in between there, and that worked out really well. Yeah, don't forget. Yeah, hopefully none of them are the Eric Schmidt of the situation. But yeah, I feel like you are going to be surprised how many things OpenAI does, because I think people think about it as just the ChatGPT folks. But this is an indication that not only do they have plans
to be more than just ChatGPT, just to be a chatbot, but they also have a lot of efforts underway for that.
Yeah, and you think about, look at the growth of ChatGPT itself, what it did 2 years ago and what it does now. Both from, if you're using the desktop version, you can connect it to other applications. It'll be able to, it does that. You can set up, timed things where it does things and tell it like, hey, I need you to go do a thing, in 12 hours or whatever, repeating jobs and stuff. The kind of the level of document handling, et cetera. And again, it's a competitive space. You have Anthropic, which is building out their product, which I think Anthropic's doing really good stuff, really good work. I think Claude is very solid, and they had, their document implementation, which was really good. And I think that you're seeing a lot of parity between this, but a lot of just in general, these clients are moving very, very, very fast and just taking on more work. And I'll tell you, like, just kind of an anecdote too, is that outside of kind of the world of programming, the acquisition of Windsurf didn't make a lot of news. But these tools, when you use, what we call, IDEs, when you use these tools, for developing software, et cetera, and you have them tied into AI systems like ChatGPT or Claude or some other system, what happens is they have control over, let's say, a certain area like a file directory. And you can do a lot of things besides write software. You can open up Windsurf right now and say, hey, I want to write a book. I need you to create 5 folders, create 1 folder for notes, 1 folder for my outline, 1 folder for my chapters, and then 1 folder for interviews. And it will create those right now. You can download right now. It will do that. It'll create those folders. You could say, hey, start writing some notes. You can copy paste URLs or text into it, and it will start filling out note cards and stuff, which is way outside of kind of like the intended use ostensibly. But you start to think about, oh man, when I start taking these AI systems and give it control with file systems, my computer, it does a lot of tasks that are useful to people who aren't trying to write code.
Yeah. And I imagine there's opportunity to make specializations and branded versions of that sort of thing to market it that way that they want Simo to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's no shortage of direction and capability of what can be built. The hard part is getting it out the door and building it and making sure that stuff ships. That's really the hard part. Is that at OpenAI was always like you have everybody has ideas where it could go, and they're great ideas. It's just not enough hands, not enough managers to make it happen, and that's what they're trying to rectify now.
Yeah. Well, this definitely helps me wrap my head around this a little better, and it makes perfect sense. And if anybody doesn't know Fidji Simo's story, which I did not until recently, she's an impressive executive and somebody worth looking into and reading about if you haven't already. As are you, Andrew Mayne, an impressive person. Thanks for helping me understand this. If folks want to understand AI more, I highly recommend they subscribe to The Attention Mechanism, which you can get wherever fine podcasts are vended, hosted by Justin, Robert, Young, and Andrew. Anything about that more, or anything else you want to tell folks about before I let you go? Yeah,
I mean, we're still figuring out kind of where our audience is and the kind of things we like to talk about. Feedback is absolutely wonderful. We're trying to make something that can kind of be a bit insidery, but not too technical, insidery, and something that's broadly available. And it's been really, really fun to do that podcast with Justin and just talk about AI, because it is a very fast moving space. And it's not one of these things where you get up to speed and walk away for 6 months and come back and expect it to be the same.
Yeah. And it is, I don't mean this to sound like a backhanded compliment, but I obviously started listening because I know you and Justin. And I was like, oh, I want to hear what these guys are doing. And it's become required listening every time one comes out from me.
Oh, wow. Well, glad to hear that. Yeah. It's Justin's been the great driving force on that. So,
well, thanks, Andrew, for joining us. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Tom.
Hey, big thanks to Andrew for contributing to today's show. Thank you for being along as well for Daily Tech News Show. Let me know what you think of these weekend editions. The show is made possible by our patrons, patreon.com/DTNS. We will be back on Monday with a regular briefing. Talk to you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.